Government and Society. Section 2. Roman government. When the plebeians complained about Rome's government in the 400s BC, the city's leader knew they had to do something. If the people stayed unhappy, they might rise up and overthrow the whole government. To calm the angry plebeians, the patricians made some changes to Roman government. For example, they created new offices that could be only held by plebeians. The people who held these officials protected the plebeians' rights and interests. Gradually, the distinctions between patricians and plebeians began to disappear. But that took a very long time. As a result of changes in the patricians made, Rome developed a tripartite government, or a government with three parts. Each part has its own responsibilities and duties. To fulfill its duties, each part of the government has its own powers, rights, and privileges. Magistrates. The first part of Rome's government was made of elected officials, or magistrates. The two most powerful magistrates in Rome were called consuls. The consuls were elected each year to run the city and led the army. There were two consuls, so that no one person would be too powerful. Below the consuls were other magistrates. Rome had many different types of magistrates. Each was elected for 1 year and has its own duties and powers. Some were judges. Others managed Rome's finances, or organized games and festivals. Senate. The second part of Rome's government was the Senate. The Roman Senate was a council of wealthy and powerful Romans that advised the city's leaders. It was originally created to advise Rome's kings. After the kings was gone, the Senate continued to meet to advise consuls. Unlike magistrates, senators, members of the Senate, held office for life. By the time the Republic was created, the Senate had 300 members. At first, most senates were patricians, but as time passed, many wealthy plebeians became senators as well. Because magistrates became senators after completing their terms in office, most didn't want to anger the Senate and risk their future jobs. As time passed, the Senate became more powerful and gained influence over magistrates and took control of the city's finances. By 200 BC, the Senate had great influence in Rome's government. Assemblies and tributes. The third part of Rome's government, the part that protected the common people, had two branches. The first branch was made out of assemblies. Both patricians and plebeians took part in these assemblies. Their primary job was to elect the magistrates who ran the cities of Rome. The second branch was made up of a group of elected officials called tribunes. Elected by the officials called tribunes. Elected by the tribunes had the ability to veto or prohibit actions by other officials. Veto means I forbid. In Latin, the Roman language, this veto power made tribunes very powerful in Rome's government. To keep them from abusing their power, each tribune remained in office for only 1 year. Civic duty. Rome's government would not have worked without the participation of people. People participated in the government because they felt it was their civic duty on their duty to the city. That civic duty included doing what they could do, make sure the city was prospered. For example, they were expected to attend assembly meetings and to vote in elections. Voting in Rome was a complicated process, and not everyone was allowed to do it. Those who could, however, were expected to take part in all elections. Wealthy and powerful citizens also felt it was their duty to hold public offices and to help run the city. And in return for their time and commitment, these citizens were respected and admired by other Romans. Checks and balances. In addition to limiting terms of office, the Romans put other restrictions on their leaders' powers. They did this by giving government officials the ability to restrict the powers of other officials. For example, one consul could block the actions of the other. Laws provided by the Senate had to be approved by magistrates and ratified by the assemblies. We can call these methods to license power, checks and balances. Checks and balances kept any one of the government from becoming stronger or more influential than the others. Checks and balances made Rome's government very complicated, where sometimes quarrels arose when officials had different ideas or options. When options worked together, however, Rome's government was strong and efficient, as one Roman historian noted. In unison, they are matched for any and all emergencies, the result being that it is impossible to find a constitution that is better constructed for whether some common external danger should come upon them, and it should compel for them to band together in council. And in action, the power of their state becomes so great that nothing that is required is neglected. Written laws keep order. The Roman officials were responsible for marking the city's laws and making sure that people followed them. As these laws weren't written down, the only people who knew all these laws were politicians who had made them. Many people weren't unhappy with the situation. They did not want to be punished for breaking laws they didn't even know existed. As a result, they began to call for Rome's laws to be written down and made accessible for everyone. Rome's first written code was produced in 450 BC on 12 bronze tables or tablets. These tablets were displayed in the Forum, Rome's public meeting place. Because how it was displayed, this code was called the Law of 12 Tables. Over time, Rome's leaders passed many new laws. Throughout their history, the Romans looked out to the Law of the 12 Tables as a small symbol of Roman law and or of their lives as Roman citizens. The Roman Forum. The Roman Forum was the place where the law of the 12 tables were kept. Was the heart of the city of Rome. It was the heart of the city of Rome. It was the site of important government buildings and temples. Government and religion were only part of what made the Forum so important, though it was also a popular meeting place for Roman citizens met there to shop, chat, or gossip. The Forum lay in the center of Rome, between two major hills. On one side was the Palatine, where Rome's richest people lived. Across the Forum was the Capitoline. The Capitoline Hill was Rome's grandest temple stood. Because of this location, cities' leaders still could often be found in or near the Forum. Mingling with the common people, these leaders used the Forum as a speaking area, delivering speeches to the crowds. But the Forum also had attractions for people not interested in speeches. Various shops lined for the open square, and fights between gladiators were sometimes held there. Public ceremonies were commonly held in the Forum as well. As a result, the Forum was usually packed with people.